Welcome in to a special edition of the Hilton Head News this week, a chance for us to maybe take kind of a big picture look with a limited number of guests. First off, a guy we never get to see because he's always up in Columbia, Hilton Head's own state representative, Jeff Bradley, finished with a third year already up there, getting ready to go back for a fourth. Yep. A lot of goals I know you want to still accomplish, a lot of goals the state would like to get done in the next year. Kind of go through that a little bit.
Sure, Bob. Thanks for having us.
Sure.
From a personal perspective, I think I could probably articulate it in 4 points.
Okay.
The first is we want to continue to reform the state retirement system. It is a hot mess, and we did a good bit of work last year on the funding portion, but this year we want to come back and address the structural changes that need to be made. We're trying to reduce the liability that the state taxpayers have, and so we want to free them from that obligation. In addition to that, I want to continue to work on the charter school changes and continue to support what they're trying to do in the charter school system. We've introduced some legislation. We introduced legislation at the tail end of this session this year that gives corporations the opportunity to start their own charter school. And we think that that will allow organizations that move into a more rural community that want to do some sort of business to be able to open up a charter school and bring some competition into these areas and perhaps drive up some of the quality of the education in those areas.
And how will that, I'll stop you in the middle of that one. People are going to say, well, okay, what's the impact on public schools by that kind of a thing happening, particularly in the rural schools?
Well, they'll take some of the burden off of the existing school systems by taking some of those students. And at the same time, we believe that when there is competition in a community for the students, that the existing schools will somehow miraculously up their delivery of services. And so just the natural competition will drive the quality of the education higher.
Okay, didn't mean to interrupt.
Oh, that's all right. That's all right. And we want to continue to work to try and upgrade South Carolina's delivery of school systems. I mean, we're one of the worst in the nation, depending on which system you're looking at. And we want to continue to improve and do things that are helping improve the education outcome that we're dealing with in the states. One of which is we passed some legislation this year that gives the superintendent of education more direct control over the finances of ailing school systems. So she's taken over the Allendale school system and is negotiating with them to try and cause them to deliver a better output.
Does any of that particular part impact Beaufort County and impact our schools? Do you see that happening, or is it more of a statewide issue in other parts of the state?
No. Our system is run pretty effectively, so they wouldn't fit into that particular situation.
All right.
Continuing with the education theme, the GED camp that we started here on Hilton Head, we're still working with the State Department of Education to try and build that out across the state. Over the last couple of years, they have attempted doing GED camps in 16 locations across the state. We're going to continue to work on that this year. That's a big priority of mine personally.
Okay, yeah.
And I want to always continue to support business in any way, shape, or form. Try and get regulations out of the way. I got put on the House Administrative and Procedures Committee, which deals with all regulations that come before the House, and that's a great place to try and use a bulldozer to push regulations out of the way. So.
Now, they talk about that on the federal level. Are there a lot of state regulations that need to be dealt with?
Yes, absolutely. Each agency that wants to change the regulations that they have are required to come before us and provide testimony as to why that is. And I'm kind of in a 2-for-1. You want to bring a new regulation in, let's get rid of 2 old ones. But so we're systematically trying to work through the regulations and to reduce them and remove them.
We're a year off now, or a year away now from the hurricane. How has the state and the county and the local municipalities, is it better now than it was before the storm? And do you see things being communicated and delivered the way they should be?
Well, we had put $76 million in the it would be 17-18 budget for Hurricane Matthew cleanup. I'm not so sure I understand what you mean by better at this point, but I think the fact that we have some money to assist counties and municipalities will be helpful. We are going in and attempting to get some additional money set aside to help the gated communities here recover some of the costs that they had when they came back. Apparently there were issues relative to the cut and push that happened immediately after the storm, where if they had waited for the town to come in and do the cut and push, they would have been reimbursed by FEMA. They were trying to serve their constituency. They went in early, they cut and pushed, and therefore they weren't entitled to reimbursement. We're working on that. I don't know whether we're going to be able to get it across the goal line, because that means something else in the state isn't going to get funded.
Well, but that's part of what I was talking about are we getting more in sync with at least understanding what needs to happen next storm.
Yes,
absolutely. Don't cut and push so quickly.
Don't cut and push. So, yeah, exactly.
A topic we have been talking about, and I think is going to be talked about a whole lot more, and we've only got a few seconds here, a new bridge between the island and the mainland. The county is talking about potentially a referendum to raise some of the money. Do you think the state will get on board with that? The state's got a lot of other priorities. Are we here in the low country rising in the priority level and getting infrastructure projects
I'll tell you this, Bob. We, Senator Davis and I, are both working on pecking away at the Department of Transportation to try and make sure that they're cognizant of the importance of that bridge. So I don't think the state would do anything to get in the way of a local referendum to try and raise money to not spend state monies for a bridge. But I think that that is a very high obligation that we have at the state to assist with that bridge, because this is part of the economic engine of the state. We send $1 million a day from Hilton Head to Columbia. We need some of that to come back here to help with that sort of stuff.
Amen. Now that's now you're talking something I think Islanders want to hear. Hey, thanks so much
You're welcome.
for spending the time with us. It's been great. We're going to talk with Charlie Clark next, a little later on in the show. We're going to talk with James Wedgeworth about the engine that drives business here on the island, the real estate business. Stay with us on this special edition of the Hilton Head News.